We're back in the black hole of real estate. We're going to spend some time today talking about the back to school crowd and what's going on a little bit different this year. This is your host, Ron Wysakarski, for the black hole of real estate. This year, unlike most years, people are working super hard to move right before the school year. So they have the move in place, they've gone on their summer vacation, they've purchased a home, they've sold a home, they're moving into a rental, moving from a rental to a house, moving from a house to a rental, just any one of those combinations. But what I'm noticing this year is that the summer buying season, if you will, was really drawn out. In fact, a lot of people are just getting around to doing it right now, and it's not necessarily because of laziness. I don't think procrastination has much to do with it at all. I believe that with so much data and so much uncertainty for the last 6, 8, 10 months, the desire to move has been outweighed by the thirst for more knowledge or more certainty. And what we're finding right now is that a number of people have pushed the certainty factor aside, or maybe they feel more certain themselves about moving and getting in the right house, right location, at the right time, and the right price. And what we're seeing right now is that people are a little bit less concerned about moving and having an upheaval of their morning schedules. If you're in Florida, the schools have started, so we've gone through the last couple of weeks of the trials and tribulations of the bus runs and the drop-off lines, because it changes every year, especially if the kids are moving from the elementary schools to the middle school, then on to the high school, or maybe it's homeschooled doing or private school. So that shuffle has gone on for a couple of weeks, and once that level of comfort hits, well, sometimes you're ready for another level of discomfort, and that's where some of these moves are coming in right now. Now, one of the things that's contributing to this is that we just reported last week that the interest rates are at a 10-month low. It's causing some people to think twice about not moving and going through some discomfort to get where they would have hoped to have gotten before the school year, but it still makes sense in a lot of ways for them to do it. So we're seeing that. We see other people that were delayed in moving, whether it's housing or rentals, because Labor Day came early this year. And that's also quite interesting because it's happening, this coming weekend, where the first where a lot of people would want to move by is on the holiday, and there's vacations planned around it. As a matter of convenience, towards the inconvenience, like, well, if we're going to go on this holiday weekend for Labor Day, maybe moving after isn't such a bad idea. For many people, that's exactly what they're going to do. So whatever's causing people to move, looking at September, October timelines, which historically are not necessarily the busiest times for move, that's going on. There's been a big uptick in my personal business in the month of August, pendings that will close by the end of September. I mean, I've got a dozen different deals on the books right now that will close in September, and that's a lot of people moving, especially around the school year, and a lot of these people, they have children in school, so it's a disruption to what we've normally seen at this time of year. Now, does it mean that the market is trending upwards? There's a maybe in there. And if you think about what's conspiring right now, we're going to be easing into the end of the third quarter. So a lot of pricing strategies, a lot of designs on where we might move and what we might receive for the house on the buy and sell side, they're becoming more true for the year of 2025, because now we're coming up to 8-9 months of data, and the needles won't necessarily get moved up and down for the whole year. But is there a recent trend that we should be paying attention to? We know that home values, the sale prices, I should say, were up year over year, like the first quarter was higher, the second quarter was higher. Looks like the third quarter the prices are going to be higher in that 2 to 3% range, so the bottom didn't fall out. Probably not going to fall out. And as the rates continue to come lower, we're starting to see multiple offers in a few of our properties, and not all. But it's been a minute since we had multiple offers on more than one property, in a week or a month. And we saw quite a bit of that in the last few weeks. So maybe market's picking up a little bit. I'm not going to say it's a seller's market. I'm not. I think the data suggests it's a balanced market right now, and it's about even for buyers and sellers right now. That could shift in either direction. Rates go up a few percent. That would be 8, 9, 10%. I think it very quickly turns into a buyer's market, but not everybody wants to buy at those rates. If rates drop, and there's some sentiment that, strong sentiment, you'll see a rate drop in September, and maybe not just a quarter point, but possibly a half point. Well, that could really stir some buyer activity, because then it'd be even more affordable to make a purchase. Could that tip the market just ever so slightly towards the sellers? Maybe. Only because it would introduce a few more people into the market to make a purchase in the month of September and October. And with a lower monthly payment, could they stretch a little higher in the budget? Maybe. Whenever we see the rates go down, it doesn't mean the prices go up, but it does increase the likelihood, because purchasing power does increase. And I think part of the reason we've seen the slowdown in the market the last year or so is that sellers are clinging to a price that could have been achieved far more easily 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. And as the market finds itself right now, we'll find out if the right amount of price reduction combined with the right amount of buyer energy continues to make these deals happen. I saw that in August. I suspect we'll see it again in September. It's very possible that August and September numbers will beat last year's. It seems very likely, at least from the perspective that I have, because mine are certainly better. So there is some sentiment as we get into this, area where we could talk about the fourth quarter. If there's going to be 2 more interest rate drops and there's 3 more Fed meetings, it's looking like that's going to happen. Could we flirt with rates at 6% or 5.875? I've suggested this all year long, and I felt that we would touch down into the area at some point in the year, but maybe end up at 6%. I still feel that there could be a 5.875 rate out there, especially if we get a 0.5% reduction. September, mid-September Fed meeting, that would push it right in that 6.125, 6.25 range. If there was an aggressive lender out there, that could happen. Certainly with a subsequent interest rate reduction in one of the last 2 meetings, we could touch into that area. Now, we don't need to be right about that, but it's looking more possible. There hasn't been a reduction in any interest rates from the Fed since the election. So we're coming up in almost a year of inactivity as far as changing of the rates. Have just held for almost a year, and most markets find some fluctuation throughout the year. It's an abnormal circumstance to see rates just stay the same for this long. So what we look at for the next little bit is that there's a far greater willingness for would-be homeowners, those moving across town, selling one home to buy another, and renters looking to secure a place, even over a holiday weekend, or the month of September and October after school starts. There's an increase in that, and it could just get the market to move a little differently and a little faster than we might have anticipated even 60 days ago. So it's news, and it's interesting, and it could lead to the market and consumers finding a little more direction and perhaps a lot more certainty. So we'll see where this takes us. Well, we're going to keep reporting on this because I find this super interesting. I do think the market's ready to make some sort of a move right now, and we'll be watching. This is your host, Ron Wojciechowski, for the Black Hole of Real Estate.